This podcast is supported by Talkspace.
When my husband came home from his military deployment, readjusting was hard for all of us. Thankfully, I found Talkspace.
Talkspace provides professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatric providers online. Military members, veterans, and their dependents ages 13 and older can get fast access to providers, all from the privacy of their computers or smartphones.
I just answered a few questions online, and Talkspace matched me with a therapist. We meet when it's convenient for me, and I can message her anytime. It was so easy to set up, and they accept TRICARE. Therapy was going so well, my husband and I started seeing a couples therapist through Talkspace too.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, including TRICARE. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/military. Go to Talkspace.com/military to get started today. That's Talkspace.com/military.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warm up from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Chris Cichon, who does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. They get a look at all things out there in the DMV area. We have to chat with him about the sell-off that we did see from the Baltimore Orioles over the last few days. Additionally, how we take a look at this American League playoff race, what we can expect from the Orioles on Monday with Cade Povich on the bump, and so much more. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via the 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds and that all gambling-related transactions, they do get approved 100% of the time. When you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That gets you a $1 match on your first deposit of up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Sunday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The game resumed in the Speedway Classic with the Braves down 1-0. They claw their way back 4-2 the final. Hurston Waldrop ended up getting the ball after the game got suspended last night, but that said, for Waldrop, he gives up 1 run in 5 2/3 innings. From there, Pierce Johnson, a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Racio Iglesias only led a scoreless inning, and Tyler Kinley and out of the bullpen scoreless. And it was the Eli White game. He goes deep off of Brent Suter and Scott Barlow for home runs 5 and 6 of the campaign. For Suter, he got the ball after Chase Burns had thrown a scoreless first inning on Saturday. Suter gives up 3 runs in 2 2/3 innings. Barlow gives up a solo home run in his inning of work. Luis May gave you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Sam Ball, a scoreless inning. And then Lyon Richardson was able to come in and hold down the fort for 2 scoreless innings. Things have been a little bit miserable for the LA Dodgers recently, but they were able to snap out of their funk on Sunday. They were able to get a 3-0 win over the Tampa Bay Rays as Freddie Freeman was able to have himself a relatively solid game in this one. RBI double out of him, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he was the star in this one. He goes 5 2/3 innings scoreless. From there, you did have Alex Vesia give you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Newly acquired Brock and Roll Seward is scoreless inning, and then Ben Casparis, Blake Trine piecemeal together a scoreless inning. And for Joe Boyle, he went a solid start here for the Tampa Bay Rays. 5 scoreless innings. From there, Griffin Jacks gets jacked up. He gives up a run in an inning. Mason Englert gives up 2 runs in 2 innings. And Brian Baker a scoreless inning. But the Rays, they leave 10 men on base and they don't score a single run. For the Milwaukee Brewers, they are all of a sudden surging. 14-3. They lay waste to the Nationals. Nationals, by the way, your second best over team in all of baseball. 59 overs, 48 unders, and 4 pushes along the way. As for the Brewers, you had Mr. Logan Henderson get the start here because Jacob Mizorowski lands on the injured list, gives up 1 run in 4 1/3 innings. Aaron Ashby, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. The alternate Paul gives up 2 runs in 2 1/3 innings before Grant Anderson, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And Bryce Terang goes deep twice off of Brad Lord, his 7th home run season, and Ryan Lotus, his 8th. For Lotus, he's had a rough time out of the bullpen, giving up that home run in 2/3 of an inning, but not as bad as Zach Brzezinski, who now has a 9 ERA. Gave up 6 runs and he got 1 out. That's not great to say the least. He had Andre Lara and Cole Henry both on the scoreless inning. Brad Lord, the starter, gives up 3 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Connor Pilkington, 2 runs, one of which was earned in his third of an inning, and he had Jose Ferrer give up 2 runs in his inning work for the Milwaukee Brewers, now 67-44, leading the National League with that regard. The Blue Jays have been on top of the American League, but they do fall in 10 innings to the Kansas City Royals, this by a count of 7-4. Royals were your top under team in all of baseball just a few days ago, starting to surge as they got to Sir Anthony Dominguez in the 10th inning in this one. This game was 2-2. Going into the 10th inning, Chris Bassett, he had them hook, line, and sinker, 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Brandon Little, Jeff Hoffman, both on his scoreless inning. Louis Varland does give up a run in an inning, but Sir Anthony Dominguez, 5 runs, 3 of which were earned, and he didn't get a single out. Hurt by some errors out there in the field, but not great. Tommy Nance, he was able to come in, and he didn't hold on the inherited runners, but didn't give up any runs himself in the 10th inning. Seth Lugo gives up 2 runs in 4 2/3 innings. From there, the bullpen was great. John Schreiber, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Daniel Lynch, Lucas Ursich, Hunter Harvey, all on the scoreless inning. Carlos Aceves does give up 2 runs, one of which was earned in the 10th inning, but more than enough to get the job done out there. Also being able to get the job done, how about the Seattle Mariners, who have been a really good over team thus far this season? 59 overs, 49 unders, and 5 pushes. They take it to the Walker Texas Rangers, 5-4 the final. Jacob deGrom, for just the second time in his last 19 starts, gives up more than 3 runs. He gives up a 5 spot in 5 innings, including a trio of bombs. J.P. Crawford, 9th home run season. Ore Polanco, 18th home run season. And Julio Rodriguez, 28th home run season. Logan Evans gives up 3 runs in 5 innings, and he gave up a bomb of his own to Corey Seager, 16th home run season. And Adolis Garcia, he gets his 16th off of Carlos Vargas. Vargas gives up that home run in his 2 innings of work. Caleb Ferguson, Andres Munoz, both on his scoreless inning. And for Texas, you had Hobie Milner give you 2 scoreless innings, and Cole Winn was able to come in for a scoreless inning. For the Slam Diego Padres, they find a way to persevere by kind of 7-3 over the St. Louis Cardinals. One of the best starts we've seen from Dylan Cease in quite a while. 1 hit allowed in 5 scoreless innings. From there, Jason Adams, Jeremiah Estrada, David Morgan, all on his scoreless inning. Andrea Motorhone blew the under free if you had this, and I did. 3 runs allowed, and he didn't get a single out before Robert Suarez. He comes in, and he's able to get a scoreless inning. Did allow a inherited runner or 2 to be able to score, but for the Padres, pair of bombs in this one. Jake Cronenworth off of Andre 3000 Palante, 9th home run season, and Roderi Munoz gives one up to Ramon Laureano, 16th home run season. Palante gives up 2 runs in 5 innings, but then from there, Munoz gives up that home run in his inning work, and Gordon Graceffo, he gives up 4 runs in 2 innings. So that was a little bit less than amazing. This was not amazing for the White Sox as well. The White Sox get up in this game by a count of 5-0, and they lose 8-5. As for the Chicago White Sox, Sean Burke, he does give up 3 runs in 5 innings, but not the world's worst start. From there, Mike Vasil gives up 2 runs in 2 innings. Steven Wilson runs out the bullpen scoreless, and then Tyler Alexander, he gives up 3 runs without getting a single out as he allows a walk-off homer to Mr. Taylor Ward. For Taylor Ward, he has now gone deep 26 times this year. Zach Neto got a home run off of Burke, his 16th home run season, and Jack Kachanowicz continues to be miserable. 5 runs allowed in 6 innings, including a bomb to Colson Montgomery. 7th home run season, all coming within the last 28 days, by the way. Andrew Chafin, Reed Detmers, Kenley Jansen, all on a scoreless inning from there for the LA Angels. The Cubs get the job done against the Baltimore Orioles, this by a count of 5-3. 3 runs in the 9th inning may have costed you the total in this one if you took it late, as Brandon Young, 200 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings. Diedrich Enns comes in for 1 2/3 innings. He allows a run. Cade Stout, he comes in for 5 outside the bullpen scoreless, and then Keegan Aiken, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, give it up in the 9th inning as it was a walk-off homer by Justin Turner down for what? That ended at his 3rd home run of the campaign. For Baltimore, you had the team go 2 of 10 with men in scoring position as Colin Ray said hip hip boo to not fulfilling 5 innings. Gave up 2 runs in 4 2/3 innings, but bullpen from there was solid. Daniel Palencia gives up a run in an inning, but Brad Keller, Andrew Kittredge both give you a scoreless inning, and Drew Pomeranz was able to come in for 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. He had the Arizona Diamondbacks persevere against the Athletics by a count of 6-4. As for Arizona, he had Eduardo Rodriguez give up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. From there, Kyle Nelson gives up a home run in his inning of work, and then you had a run given up in an inning by Andrew Selfrank, but scoreless innings out of John Curtis with 2 S's and Kendall Graveman. Meanwhile, for Arizona, Blaze Alexander gets his 1st home run of the season. That comes off of Elvis Alvarado, who is taken out of the building. He gives up that home run in his inning of work. Jack Perkins, as pretty much a pseudo-opener, gives up 4 runs in 3 innings. Ben Bowden, along Sean Newcomb, led a scoreless inning, as Waldo Beto, 2 scoreless innings, and Michael Kelly, he came in, he gave up a run in an inning, and off of Kyle Nelson, J.J. Bleday gets his 9th home run of the season. For the Colorado Rockies, they're starting to play some overs, as they allowed the Pirates to put up a 9 spot, 9-5. The Pirates get the job done as Mitch Keller does give up 5 runs in 5 innings, including a trio of home runs. Mickey Boniek, 17th home run season, Hunter Goodman his 21st, and Jordan Beck his 14th, but Brandon Blaylock was even worse. Does fill 5 2/3 innings, but gives up a pair of bombs Cubs as he was taken deep by Tommy Pham, his 5th home run season, and then Spencer Horwitz, his 4th home run season. Horwitz would then go deep off of Ryan Rolson, his 5th home run season, as Blaylock gives up 7 total runs. Rolson gives up that home run in 2/3 of an inning of work on Al Shavili, 5 outside the bullpen. He gives up a run, and then Nick Anderson was able to come in for a scoreless inning. And for Pittsburgh, Carmen Molodzinski, 2 scoreless innings. Isaac Madsen, Dennis Santana, they're both able to turn a scoreless inning of their own. Being able to turn some scoreless innings, the Boston Red Sox, as they get a 6-1 win over the Houston Astros. For Houston, Framber Valdez, worst start we've seen out of him in quite some time. 6 runs, 4 of which were allowed in his 6 innings, and the error was on himself, so he caused it himself there. From there, you had Caleb Ord and Nick Hernandez, both led a scoreless inning, but one form of offense, newly acquired Carlos Correa. Welcome back. 8th home run season off of Lucas Giolito, who was great. Only 4 punch-outs, but lost that home run in 8 innings of work. From there, Chris Murphy was able to turn a scoreless inning. You had the Minnesota Twins turn a win over the Cleveland Guardians, just by a count of 5-4, as for the Twinkies, you did have in this one Jose Urena. You don't see a guy play for 4 different teams in a season very often, but allows 2 runs over the course of 4 innings. Did give up a home run along the way, as it was Jose Ramirez getting his 23rd home run in the campaign. From there, the bullpen was solid. Michael Tonkin does give up 2 runs in 1/3 of an inning, but you had from there a pair of outside the bullpen from Erasmo Ramirez to close out the game. Cody Funderburk, 2 scoreless innings. Justin Topa, Cole Sands, they both led a scoreless inning. And for Cleveland, Joey Cantillo, well, he Cantillo'd this game. 4 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings, all coming in the first inning. Jacob Junis from there, a run allowed in 2 1/3 innings. And you had Carlos Hernandez be able to lend a scoreless inning as well. And you had the New York Yankees get swept by the Miami Marlins, this by a count of 7-3, as for Luis Eel, not what he was looking for in this one. 5 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings. From there, Brent Hendrick gives up a solo run in 2 2/3 innings of work. JT Brubaker gives up a run in his 2 innings. For the Yankees, you did have a pair of bombs. Jazz Chisholm off of Mr. Simpson, his 19th home run season, and then Edward Cabrera does give one up to Trent Grisham, 20th home run season for Cabrera. Gives up that solo run in his 6 innings of work. From there, Josh Simpson gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. Ronnie Enriquez, Lake Bakar, they both on a scoreless inning, and off of Hendrick, Kyle Stowers gets his 25th home run of the campaign, as the Marlins are all of a sudden back to 500, by the way, and they're doing a whole heck of a lot better than the Atlanta Braves are in that very same division. And right now for the New York Mets, they have a Mr. Frankie Montas problem. 12-4, the Giants were able to take it to the Metropolitans, as Montas, 7 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. From there, you had 4 scoreless innings out of Austin Warren, and for Mr. Montas, did give up a home run along the way, and Ryan Stanek is an issue as well. 5 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning before Louis Torrens, a backup catcher, gets it out of the bullpen scoreless. For the Mets, the biggest form of excitement in this game, Francisco Lindor, 21st home run in the campaign. That comes off of Carson Weisenhunt, who gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned in 5 1/3 innings. Ryan Walker does give up 2 runs, one of which was earned in his inning work, but Jose Buto, the former Met, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. Joey Lucchesi, the former Met, 3 outside the bullpen scoreless as well. And going deep for San Francisco, Casey Schmidt, home run number 6 of the campaign, and Rafael Devers, he was able to get home run number 20 of the season. And on Sunday Night Baseball, it was the Philadelphia Phillies shutting out the Detroit Tigers, this by a count of 2-0, as this was a tremendous start from one Mr. Christopher Sanchez. 8 scoreless innings, and then Yordan, he comes in for a 12-pitch scoreless 9th inning to be able to polish things off. Kyle Schwarber was really able to put some distance between the Phillies and the Detroit Tigers in the 8th inning, 38th home run season. That comes off of Tyler Holton, who goes 2 innings. He allows a solo home run, and Charlie Morton, pretty solid in his debut for the Detroit Tigers. He does give up 1 run in 6 innings. He takes a loss, but certainly better than what he was doing with the Baltimore Orioles. Exactly what we need is to be continuing to keep our eye on baseball. If you're taking a look at trend-wise what we're getting in baseball, it has been quite a bit of an underwhelming season thus far this season, and if you look at the last 7 days in baseball, it's been a reversal. 46 overs to 36 unders. That's 56% to the over. Favorites are hitting at only about 54%, 48 and 41 on the money line over the last 7 days. Season to date, favorites are hitting more around about 56.7%, 942 and 718 on the money line. Meanwhile, the over is hitting at just 47.8% for the season, 767 overs to 837 unders. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do talk with our good friend Chris Cichon of WBAL in Baltimore about what we're all seeing on the front of baseball and so much more right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beeson Family Podcast.
This podcast is supported by Talkspace.
When my husband came home from his military deployment, readjusting was hard for all of us. Thankfully, I found Talkspace.
Talkspace provides professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatric providers online. Military members, veterans, and their dependents ages 13 and older can get fast access to providers, all from the privacy of their computers or smartphones.
I just answered a few questions online and Talkspace matched me with a therapist. We meet when it's convenient for me, and I can message her anytime. It was so easy to set up, and they accept TRICARE. Therapy was going so well, my husband and I started seeing a couples therapist through Talkspace too.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, including TRICARE. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/military. Go to Talkspace.com/military to get started today. That's Talkspace.com/military.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beeson Family Podcast. Great to be joined by this man as we've got Chris Cichon aboard. He does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. Take a look at so many different things. If there's news happening in the city of Baltimore, he's got you covered. If there's baseball going on out there in Baltimore, he's got you there as well. Obviously doing a great job keeping up with the Ravens as it's starting to be football season as well. And Chris, he covers a little bit of everything also well. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at The Big Cheese Show. That is CHEE on Chi before show. And Chris, it's always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Greg, thank you so much for having me. And as always, for the kind words. Yeah, watching these two teams, the Rangers and the Mariners, ahead of a battle that they're going to have for the wild card, perhaps the division if we see the Astros slip up a little bit. But yeah, it's heating up here baseball-wise, and I was covering Sports Thursday at WBAL, and on Friday, the news, which was Mike Elias holding a press conference in the morning where he addressed the moves that were made by this Orioles organization. And one of the questions I asked him about was the trade with Ramon Urias involving Twine Palmer, who they got in return from the Astros. And it was the number 37 ranked prospect on Fangraphs in the Astros organization. And I asked Elias about that, if he pays attention to that sort of stuff. And he says that they do to some extent, but they liked who they were getting. But yeah, Ramon Urias was a tough one leaving town. O'Hearn, Laureano, but this is an Orioles team now that is going forward with Gunnar Henderson as the face of the franchise.
Yep, absolutely. And when it comes to this Orioles team, obviously a lot of new look guys. I believe that they had to call up 6 guys for their series with the Chicago Cubs. They had 6 guys that left the organization right around the trade deadline. And just how are they taking a look at this moving forward? Is this going to be like a trial for a lot of these guys that were down in Norfolk for much of the season and they're looking to build for 2026 and beyond? Or is there a little bit of a different approach right now being taken with the Orioles?
So the plan with Elias always has been that they feel as though they can compete in 2026, and make of this what you will. But another question that was asked on that press conference was about Grayson Rodriguez and his availability moving forward, and if he's possibly going to miss 2026. And Elias said that with the latest elbow impingement flare-up, they are looking at doing a surgery, and that's going to be a decision that they make here in the next day or so, where they may be removing just bone chips and not necessarily doing a total restructuring of that elbow. So you've got a situation where Grayson Rodriguez, if he's able to return with the addition of Bradish and Tyler Wells, and you have Dean Kramer, you hope that Zach Eflin gets better next year going into the season. You're going to have some more pieces, including perhaps Albert Suarez helping you out. And the bullpen, Yanir Cano was somebody that was discussed as well, too, asking about opportunities and bringing guys up. Tony Mansolino was asked after a loss against the Blue Jays, which if they had won that game, they would have swept. That would have certainly been, even though this series or season has been a disappointment, that would have been nice to see if you're an Orioles fan being able to take down the Jays and hurt their chances of winning the division. But when Mansolino was talking after the game about Yanir Cano, who blew the game in that situation, he said, look, Cano is going to get a lot of opportunities. He's just not having good pitch selection against lefties. But given that they traded away 4 relievers, he's going to have an opportunity, Mansolino said, to figure it out. And so, yeah, you're going to have a mix of guys being called up. You're going to have a mix of the veterans that are still there. And when I mean veterans, I'm talking about guys like Gunnar Henderson, who, again, is not exactly pummeling the baseball from a home run perspective this year, but he has really kind of come into his own. He's really been hitting the baseball well, as has Jackson Holliday, too. So those are really some pieces to build around there. It's just a matter of, can this Orioles pitching staff in the minors get to a point where they're not maybe teaching them to throw with such force that they're hurting themselves down there? I mean, it just seems to be happening too often with this Orioles organization. Maybe they're teaching them just to strike guys out down there instead of pitching to contact. And ultimately, that's led to some problems with that rotation. But yeah, anyway, to answer your question, Elias, he is basically indicating that they made a lot of deals because the opportunities presented themselves. Cal Ripken Jr., I was listening to the broadcast on Friday. He's called, and Elias is feeling the heat in this town, but Ripken said that he's masterful at bringing talent into the organization, and he got back really good prospects, or assumed that they got back really good prospects. I checked into a couple of them. I mentioned Palmer, another one, 19-year-old Boston Bateman, 6'8", 240. He was the Padres' number 5 prospect, second-round pick in 2024. Premium pitching prospect from the left side is how Elias described him. So, yeah, this is a team that seems to want to be at least replenishing the pitching system in the minors, because they seem to be drafting highly. They got grabbed like those catchers early on in the draft this year, which was a little bit of a head-scratcher, although Adley Rutschman, he might not be all that was cracked up to be, honestly. Understandably, he was the first pick overall, but has not totally put it together. He helps this team coming back. He's good with the pitchers, but he's certainly no Cal Raleigh, who I know that just had the 4 strikeout game on Saturday against the Texas Rangers. But yeah, that's certainly not Rutschman delivering with the power often enough, or at least what the Orioles were expecting.
Yep, absolutely. It has been quite a bit of a struggle all season long for the Baltimore Orioles, and it is going to be interesting to take a look at their outlook moving forward, because for Baltimore, they had to trade away a lot of pieces at the trade deadline, so there's going to be a lot of young guys. They're going to be looking to be able to prove their worth. They're coming off of this Chicago Cubs series where they were able to get a win on Saturday, so that was encouraging. But on Monday going forward, it's going to be them facing off against the Philadelphia Phillies. And just how do you take a look at how the Orioles are going to be operating moving forward? Because, I mean, they did have Tomoyuki Sugano starting on Saturday, so he's still going out there, give them some relatively solid starts. As we're doing this podcast, their starters should be determined on Monday. They have been throwing out there some Brandon Young, and I think that the rotation is so interesting because you mentioned it was Grayson Rodriguez. Seems like he's not going to be coming back this year, and they might not be able to have him too much for 2026 at this point either.
So, yeah, absolutely. And if you're looking at this pitching staff, it's certainly one that I feel as though, based on recency bias perhaps, but they're going to be building this around Trevor Rogers because he has just been absolutely lights out as of late. I did not expect that to happen. But Monday looking like Cade Povich is going to be going in Philadelphia, and it is, according to Tony Mansolino, the hope that Ryan Mountcastle is going to be rejoining the team as well. So that's another veteran bat that this team could certainly use. But yeah, Cade Povich, he is a former Savannah Banana. So that's kind of fun about him. They just were here at Camden Yards and were absolutely putting on a big-time performance and sold out both Friday and Saturday night. But yeah, Cade Povich, guy, lanky, 6'3", 185. He's somebody that left-hander that's going to help him out perhaps against a couple of these bats, but of the Philadelphia Phillies, can mix in the curve, slider, change, but to me, isn't par probably when he's got to be pitching to the likes of Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos and Harper, who, isn't lighting it up like we anticipated probably coming into this year. But October, if he's healthy totally in October, I would expect him to perform for this Philadelphia Phillies team. But that remains to be seen once the Phillies get in there. But yeah, I would say looking at what the Orioles have upcoming with this series in Philadelphia, you're going to roll out Dean Kramer on Tuesday, Rogers on Wednesday, presumably. And they are going to have to give you some length, all of those guys. And Dean Kramer has been solid for this team pretty much. He struggled out the gate this season, but he has been, outside of Rogers, their other consistent, successful starter here. If you're looking at Philadelphia and who they're going to be probably rolling out against the Baltimore Orioles, Luzardo, I think, is somebody that is hittable. I mean, I understand that he's had a successful season there, but, this is a Philadelphia team that I don't know when they're going to be getting Aaron Nola back. It's certainly not going to be during this series, but this could be Taijuan Walker's last series in the rotation. That's another guy who I've always really liked. Injuries have sort of gotten to him at times. He was a good teammate in Philadelphia when they made that run in the postseason, when he was basically not even rostered or not getting any sort of playing time. And then Ranger Suarez rounding it out in that series. I bet you the Orioles bats will have a tough time getting to him because Ranger Suarez is a very solid pitcher for this team. But Baltimore, ultimately, it's sad to see guys like Cedric Mullins go, Ramon Arias. The bullpen pieces to me were Kittredge, you were going to be, and he wasn't really here that long anyway, and the return you got. And one thing, too, I want to point out that, because you see a lot of cash considerations being thrown out. And Mike Elias explained it as basically these teams that are competing need to have additional capital. And so with David Rubenstein was getting, again, he's another one who's getting a lot of heat. The owner here, he takes over Peter Angelos. There's a little bit of success. Not anymore, but he has been adding in the cash considerations, which has certainly allowed teams that, could be going over the luxury tax and have to pay for more or give up more draft picks. Elias said that's been helping out there too in terms of these trades here. So if you're the Orioles, you just got to really hope at this point for 2026. You have Bradish, Wells, and Grayson Rodriguez as part of the rotation, and two of those three can make it through the majority of the season, because you do have the core of the hitters there. I haven't even talked about Jordan Westberg yet. I mean, that's a really solid hitter for this team as well, too. Somebody that you build around at the hot corner there. So, yeah, it's an Orioles team that I certainly think can get on. I don't know what they're going to do as far as manager. That was another thing Elias was asked. Probably not going to be Tony Mansolino, but probably too early to speculate who's going to be available on that front. Buck Showalter did come out this past weekend, speaking of the Savannah Bananas, and did coach first base, but I don't see them bringing Buck back.
Yeah, I think that they might want Buck back at this point because he always does a great job of the rebuild. Doesn't necessarily get his teams over the top, but does a great job with the rebuild. So that's always interesting on that front. And Chris, as we know with the Baltimore Orioles, they've got a lot of big games coming up. And even though they might be out of the postseason race, they have a chance to be able to play spoiler. And how do you take a look at an American League where it just feels so open right now with the Blue Jays having the best record out there in the American League? Red Sox are surging, but they've been hit or miss. The New York Yankees have been having their issues. The Detroit Tigers are right now on a losing streak. The Rangers all of a sudden are hitting, but for the first 3+ months of the year, they were not. So I think that this is just such an interesting front in general.
Yeah, and a really interesting situation with this Texas team is they don't really have great starting pitching, I would say. I mean, it's been solid what they've gotten out of Patrick Corbin. You and I have talked about Corbin for years when I was down in D.C. He got a nice contract. I mean, he went out every 5 days and 8 innings, but that's about the best you could say for Patrick Corbin when he was in a Nats uniform. But for Texas, he's done a lot better of a job, and then they're going to have Eovaldi and Leiter rolled out for this series against the Yankees, at least presumably. I mean, Eovaldi is somebody that flamethrower that I would certainly trust against a Yankees lineup that should have Aaron Judge back by that point, but we'll see how that certainly plays out. But watching the Yankees against Yuri Perez on Saturday, it's can be feast or famine with that team. They had a bunch of runs on the Friday night. They weren't really able to generate a whole lot against Yuri Perez, as I just mentioned. So, yeah, I like this Texas Rangers team quite a bit because they made the acquisitions for Danny Kalum. And, again, I'm just watching it, but rings up a Rosarena, then rings up Cal Raleigh, both on called strike threes. These were not swinging strike threes, painting corners. Phil Maton then comes on. He gets Julio Rodriguez striking out, looking. I mean, these are veteran relievers who know how to get it done in the postseason. And when I was listening to the Seattle Mariners broadcast the other night, they basically said that once it gets into like October, November, that marine layer is even going to be, I guess, more so prevalent because of the temperatures dropping and the ball is not going to go out as much. And so if you have away games in Seattle, and you got to go out there. You want to have relievers in some of these later innings. But yeah, on the flip side, talking about the Seattle bunch, I just rattled off a whole bunch of sluggers that this team has. And if J.P. Crawford, who I know certainly struggled coming out of the All-Star break, can get it all together, yeah, Randy Arozarena, outside of that, as I just mentioned, the called strike three, he's been just outstanding since coming, or at least this year, he's been really strong for the Seattle Mariners team, especially the second half of the year. So, yeah, those are two teams to certainly watch. And then when you're talking about a Mariners team that also just acquired Josh Naylor and Gino Suarez, who certainly has been slugging and not looking like a mid-30s hitter at this point. He certainly has been getting it done. So, yeah, that's going to be a fun race out there in the American League. And as we know, in the AL Central, it's going to probably, if not definitely, be the Detroit Tigers winning that division. But they have their warts, if you will, and we'll see how they do in this upcoming series against the Minnesota Twins when they're not exactly rolling out their best with Paddock. And my Paddock Flaherty is a lot better than a whole lot of teams, but you would hope it's Skubal. And the way Morton's been pitching, certainly somebody that is going to be rounding out this Tigers lineup. Morton, as we know, big game postseason experience. So that is something that he's bringing to this Tigers team. And they have a lineup. They're clicking on all cylinders. Riley Green has done such an outstanding job this year. Spencer Torkelson is the slugger that we've all, expected when he was drafted to become. So, yeah, the Tigers are going to be a threat as well. And then if we're looking at the remainder of the American League East, I'm hard-pressed to think that, it's the Yankees or bust to me, just because ultimately Max Fried, Aaron Judge, those are some of the two best players. And then the Yankees, even though they just had that absolute blunder on Friday night against the Marlins bullpen-wise, still like the acquisitions they made there, Bird and all those guys coming in before Williams, Bednar as well, too. So, yeah, I think they'll kind of settle in there, and the Yankees will do a little bit better. So I listed the Rangers, the Mariners, the Tigers, and the Yankees. Those are, again, not going out on any sort of a limb, but if I had to say those were the teams that would be in the mix, if I would be pondering doing any sort of an AL future on, I'm more of a day-to-day better, it would be those four. I didn't mean to leave off the Toronto Blue Jays. It's more of a, I need to see it before I believe it, especially when it comes to their bullpen. You can't doubt their hitters, though, especially a guy like Vlad Guerrero Jr., who looks to be like he's locked in his prime at the moment. If Kevin Gausman goes out there in postseason play and goes 8 innings or, looks unhittable, then I'll eat my words. But I'm just leaving them just slightly out of the conversation. And Houston as well, too. We see how great Hunter Brown looked the other night, and they have themselves a nice bunch of starters when we were talking about Framber Valdez as well, too. So, yeah, in their lineup, they just got Jeremy Pena back. That's going to help them out tremendously. We'll see what happens with Yordan Alvarez. I don't know when that's going to be happening, but I don't know that the Astros have the depth offensively to be able to compete with some of these other teams that I mentioned that are going to be in the mix. So, yeah, I think Houston and Toronto just far out, but I would look at the other four potentially if I was looking in the AL futures market.
Yep, no doubt about it. It's going to be so interesting, and it feels so wide open out there in the American League. So we're going to have a lot of fun taking a look at these last few months. And Chris, you're doing a great job out there in the DMV area, taking a look at a bit of everything, the day-to-day news, the Baltimore Ravens, the Baltimore Orioles, and so much more. So let the good people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Thank you so much, Greg. My wife and I, that is, will be attending our sister station 98 Rock Night. That is the Orioles against the Athletics Friday night this upcoming week. So very pumped up about that. It'll be my first game in attendance this year, believe it or not. It's just one of those things. You have 2 kids. It's harder to get it down to the stadium. Got a babysitter for the night and excited to watch Orioles Athletics. I don't know that it's going to mean much in terms of this season, but I'm going to be looking forward to having some action on it, having a couple brewskis with the wife and watching some baseball. And as always, man, enjoy coming on your show. Thank you.
Absolutely. There's nothing better than enjoying some brewskis and having a good time at a baseball game. Chris, he does such great work, so he certainly deserves it. And every single time he joins me, lends amazing insight. So a big thanks to Mr. Chris for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
This podcast is supported by Talkspace.
When my husband came home from his military deployment, readjusting was hard for all of us. Thankfully, I found Talkspace.
Talkspace provides professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatric providers online. Military members, veterans, and their dependents ages 13 and older can get fast access to providers, all from the privacy of their computers or smartphones.
I just answered a few questions online, and Talkspace matched me with a therapist. We meet when it's convenient for me, and I can message her anytime. It was so easy to set up, and they accept TRICARE. Therapy was going so well, my husband and I started seeing a couples therapist through Talkspace too.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, including TRICARE. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/military. Go to Talkspace.com/military to get started today. That's Talkspace.com/military.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Chris Cichon, who does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore, taking a look at this amazing game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. Did so once again today. So a big thanks to Chris for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any intra-league games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 901, 902 on the betting board? This is a game that is presently off the board as the San Francisco Giants are on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates. We do know that it's going to be Justin Verlander on the bump for the Giants. Right now it's a little to be determined on the bump for the Buccos. This game is presently off the board. When I went on CBS Sports for their projections, they were projecting that it was going to be you don't mess with the Johan Oviedo, and it's looking like it's probably going to be Johan Oviedo, who's at the very least going to give you a little bit of something here, but this is going to be very interesting. And I had said, if it is Mr. Oviedo going up against Verlander, I did set the Giants at a -127 on the money line. We'll go up to a -126 there, plus 128 or higher. Looking at the Buccos, and then set a total of an 8.4, an 8 or less. I'll be in on the over, 8.5 or higher. The under, we'll go briefly in on Johan Oviedo because for him, this would be his first start of the season. He went 9-14 last year for the Pirates. So an established starter, a guy that dealt with injury towards the beginning part of the season. He's only made like 6 minor league rehab starts, and he's not been bad. 3.12 ERA. He's been getting 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. His career numbers at the big league level, 7.8 strikeouts, 4.3 walks per 9 innings. I think that that'll adjust a little bit more. And for Justin Verlander, he is not the Justin Verlander that we all know and love, needless to say. 4.53 ERA, 7.5 strikeouts to 3.5 walks per 9 innings, closer to a 4.29 fielding independent. He's been a little bit better than that ERA, and he's now given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 3 out of his last 4 starts, has been the victim of a few unearned runs, but this is now a San Francisco Giants bullpen that, if you look at the season numbers, they're in the top 5 in terms of ERA. They are not going to be performing like that anymore. They traded away Camilo Duvall, they traded away Tyler Rogers, they currently have Eric Miller on the injured list, so you've got Joey Lucchesi out there who's been able to do a pretty rock solid job. Randy Rodriguez has been able to post a sub-2 ERA, but now you're going to be looking at the likes of Carson Seymour, Spencer Bivens, so that's not where you want to be. And for the San Francisco Giants, the offense has not been where it wanted to be either. They're in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Willie Adames has actually hit 9 home runs in his last 30 games, and he's been hitting darn near a 275 in that time span, so I need starting to pick it up. Too little too late though. Matt Chapman, 345 on base, 16 home runs. You've got Eloy Ramos, who's able to give you about a 340 on base with 14 bombs, but and that bottom of the lineup has been rough. Tyler Fitzgerald is out with injuries all season long, and when he's been out there, he's been hitting at 227 with no power. You've had just a big giant disappointment out of the entirety of the catcher spot. Casey Schmidt, 325 on base. He's been relatively okay, but but the mix and match guys that they've got in the infield are right now not hitting. And Jung-Ho Lee regressed from the beginning part of the season. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they entered into their series against the Colorado Rockies, dead last in the league in terms of runs per game. That, I think it was 16 spot on Friday, helped them out a little bit, but still, this is a bottom 5 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. You've got 3 guys on the roster with above 5 home runs this year: Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz, and Andrew McCutchen. And for Cruz, he is a part of a poo-poo platter of different guys. And he's below a 220 right now, as you've got Emmanuel Valdez, Alexander Canario, Henry Davis, Jared Trollo, Jack Swiniski. Whole bunch of guys are just on moving the line. And for the Pirates, even if you do get a bullpen game rather than having Mr. Johan Oviedo, you probably expect to have Carmen Melodzinski as like some sort of a bulk guy. He's been giving you about a 4.35 ERA. Not great, not terrible. And you still have some decent pieces in the bullpen: Braxton Ashcraft, Dennis Santana, Tim Meza when he's been out there as he's been injured. Braxton Ashcraft has been taking over that role. These guys have all been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, so I do have a little bit of faith in this bullpen being rock solid. So it is a circumstance where at an 8 or less, I'm in on the over, 8.5 or higher, the under. And with the Giants, I'm willing to lay up to a minus 126 on the money line, plus 128 or higher. I'm on the Buccos, 903, 904 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers are on the road against the Atlanta Braves. Eric Fetty Wap goes for the Braves. Quinn Priester is on the bump for the Brewers. Brewers are between minus 127 to minus 137 favorites. Between plus 113 to a plus 120 is that number on Atlanta. 9 is the total. The under is minus 120 and the over is even. And I'm going to be in on this Brewers money line. I did set my money line price at a minus 152. Now, this was looking like it was going to be Spencer Strider, and that would have had me on the Braves. But for Quinn Priester, even though he hasn't been amazing, he hasn't gotten a lot of swings and misses, he's been good enough. He does a good job of being able to keep the, shall we say, mistakes to a minimum, as he's only giving up 1 home run per 9 innings. The 3 walks per 9 innings, you'd like to see that be a little bit lower because he's not a strikeout guy. 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3.27 ERA, but that is backed up by a 3.93. And then for Fetty, he has been a disaster recently. He's given up at least 3 runs in each out of his last 6 starts. Overall for the season, 5.9 strikeouts, 4.1 walks per 9 innings. His ERA is up to a 5.11. The fielding dependent supports that, so it has not been great, and he is backed up by a bullpen that, well, they have not been great either. That being highlighted by the fact that Raciel Iglesias has just went straight down the toilet bowl. It's been rough for him. You still do have a few trustworthy bullpen pieces for the team. Pierce Johnson, Dylan Lee have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Desbal Hernandez, why he spent so much time in the minors, I have no idea, but he's back up. But then you've got the likes of Aaron Bummer. They trotted out there on Yo de los Santos. They had to DFA him. Dylan Dodd. You've got a lot of guys who are posting up north of a 4.5 ERA, so that's not been savory to say the least. And then the Atlanta Braves, you've got Ronald Acuna Jr. injured again. That is not great. You do have, though, Matt Olson, Marcell Ozuna, Austin Riley, Sean Murphy, all between about 15 to 18 home runs. Olson's giving you about a 360 on base. The rest of the guys have really had a tough time moving the line. Drake Baldwin, though, 350 on base with 11 home runs. The real killers for the team have been Ozzie Albies and Michael Harris, 9 home runs apiece. Harris is providing a 262 on base. Ozzie Albies is sitting at 228. You just need more out of these guys. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, they entered in their series with the Washington Nationals averaging about 5.4 runs per game. That has to be up to about 5.6 to 5.7 runs per game with what they did over the weekend. Might even be more. Like, man, these guys just absolutely tattooed the Washington Nationals. There has to be regression here, though. Like, I'm sorry, but there does have to be regression. They've got right now 2 healthy guys on the roster because Rhys Hoskins is dealing with an injury with more than 9 home runs this season. Christian Yelich, Jackson Trio. Trio sitting at 275. He's been able to supply 17 home runs. Yelich, he's up to 21 bombs. And Trio, he's currently on the injured list. He's probably going to be out for about a week or so that's a little bit of an issue for you as well. But you've got William Contreras moving the line with about a 350 on base. Al Frelick at 350 on base. Isaac Collins at 375 on base. You've got just so many guys that move the line, so they make up for their lack of power with that. And for the Brewers, since the beginning of the month of June, this has been a top 5 team in terms of their bullpen ERA. They've done a really nice job of mixing and matching. Trevor McGill, Abner Uribe, DL Hall, Nick Mears, Aaron Ashby, all these guys have been able to give you a sub-285 ERA, so that's very encouraging. But I just simply cannot trust an Eric Fetty in this spot. Quinn Priester is a guy that's pitching to contact, so I do think that you're going to get some runs in this game. I set my total 9.6, so I'm going to be in on the over. And for the Brewers, set them at a minus 152. I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 151 on this money line. 905, 906 on the betting board. The the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're onto the road. They're facing off against the Chicago Cubs as Michael Soroka is on the bump for the Cubs and Nick Lodolo is on the bump for the Redlegs. And right now this game is off the board with regards to a total because it's a Wrigley Field game, but we do have ourselves money lines as right now we are finding the Cubs at a minus 138 to a minus 144, plus 118 to a plus 127. That number on the Reds. If we can get down to a minus 136, I'd be willing to take a shot on the Cubs money line. So we need to go down about 2-3 cents, and I think that when it's all said and done, I should be able to get there. Or if I'm able to find a run line of a plus like 145 or higher, I'd be looking at that as well. So in some form or capacity, I do anticipate being on the Cubs here, but I did set a total of an 8.4. 8 or less, I'll be in on the over. 8.5 or higher, the under. You've got about 8 mile per hour winds. They're blowing in just a little bit, but it's more directional wind rather than just blowing straight out, blowing straight in. So it's going to be a relatively like neutral game here for these pitchers. Not really helping them, not really killing them. And for Soroka, I think that there's actually a lot of positivity for him. He posted up a 4.87 ERA with Washington Nationals despite getting 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Really didn't give up the deep ball. 1.2 home runs, 2.7 walks per 9 innings. His fielding dependence more around about a 4.12, so that's about 0.75 points difference. That tells me that he's been getting a little bit unlucky this year, and I do think that going to a Cubs team that has actual competency is going to be a help out a little bit. And for Nick Lodolo, he has been quite good this far this season for the Reds. His strikeout numbers are down as his strikeouts per 9 rate. You're going to be finding that at an 8.5. That's a career low, but he's only giving up about 1.7 walks per 9 innings, so he's been able to do a really good job of being able to tone that down. 3.09 ERA, 3.73 fielding dependent. He's given up 2 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 4 starts as well, so he comes in rocking and rolling. It's a Reds bullpen that has been right around about league average as far this season, as you don't necessarily have any guy that really scares you in that bullpen. Emilio Pagan gives up a few more home runs that I would like to see, but overall his ERA has been solid for the season. Tony Santina, Taylor Rogers are posting up a sub 3.25 ERA. Luis May, he's a little bit hit or miss, but Brent Suter as a long guy has been able to give you a sub 3.50 ERA. You're noticing Ryan Richardson currently really regressing, but overall it's a solid bullpen. And for the Reds, you've got Ellie De La Cruz, and then not a lot around him in terms of star power, but guys that move the line. Gavin Lux at 360 on base. You've got TJ Friedl give you about a 375 on base, and for this team, getting back Neovalli Marte, hitting at 275. Austin Hayes, 10 home runs, hitting about a 275. That's been big for them, as well as De La Cruz, 19 bombs, 360 on base. He has been very rock solid. Do have to wonder how the Reds come off of the Bristol Motor Speedway game because they were supposed to play that on Saturday, had to play that on Sunday instead, so a little bit of a wonky spot there for them, but for the Chicago Cubs, this is once again a team that's in the top 5 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Seiya Suzuki, Pete Armstrong, they've went a little bit cold with the home run power over the last week or so, but Suzuki, 26 home runs, hitting about a 245. Carl Armstrong, 270 average, 29 stolen bases, 27 bombs. That's pretty magnificent. Kyle Tucker, Michael Busch, both above a 355 on base, 39 home runs between the two of them. Carson Kelly's giving you a 370 on base. He's getting a home run every about 17 at-bats. And for the Cubs, since the beginning of the month of June, we have seen some regression with this bullpen. It's been more around league average after there was a period where they, for like 2 months, were the most dominant bullpen in all of baseball. But you still have a lot of guys going out there performing well. Brad Keller, Drew Pomeranz, Daniel Palencia, Caleb Theobar. So many guys are giving you a sub 285 ERA. So it's an interesting circumstance here. If I can get in at a minus 136 or better, I'm in on the Cubs, and then set a total of a 8.4, so an 8 or less, looking at the over, 8.5 or higher to the under, and I would need at least a plus 137 to take a shot on the Reds, so looking at the Cubs here in some form or capacity. Down to 7.908 on the betting board. It is the Slam Diego Padres, and they are on the road. They're facing off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. We do know that Brandon Pfaadt is going to be battling for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Right now for the Padres, it's old to be determined. That's why this game is off the board. CBS Sports was projecting JP Sears in this game, and if we get JP Sears, it's a rather pick'em price. Whichever team would be getting plus money, I'd be looking at them. I officially set my money line price at a minus 103 on the Arizona Diamondbacks, making them a very, very slim favorite. As a matter of fact, I actually think a bullpen game would actually be better for the Padres, or if you get Ryan Bergert. Like, Ryan Bergert will probably be like a minus 120 to a minus 125 favorite on my handicap. I actually really like Ryan Bergert, so hopefully they give him the start here, but that said, if if you do get JP Sears north of 4.5 ERA, give it up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, guy that I really just don't trust in whatsoever. So we're not going to go too much further there, but I will say for the San Diego Padres, number one team in terms of bullpen ERA this season, because you do have a guy in Robert Suarez who's blown a few games, but overall has been pretty solid. Likes of David Morgan, Andrea Morejon, Jason Adam, Jeremiah Estrada, all give you a sub 285 ERA, has been good. And then you bring in as well Mason Miller. He fortifies that bullpen even more. And for Brandon Pfaadt, it has been just a wackadoo season for him. As for Mr. Pfaadt, right now, 5.11 ERA. He's either been magnificent or he's been pooptastic. There has been no in between with him, as he gave up a 7 spot in his last start against the Detroit Tigers. Overall for the season, 7.5 strikeouts, 1.9 walks per 9 innings. I mean, his 5.11 ERA is backed up by a 4.55 fielding dependent, so he should be doing for a little bit of positivity, but I still have a lot of question marks, especially when you have a start in the season where you quite literally get 0 outs. That's not great, but his ERA does go down to a 3.68 at home, backed up by no bullpen whatsoever. Shelby Miller was like the lone guy on this roster that was giving you below a 3.5 ERA. He's both injured and got traded, so that's not great to say the least. And when it comes to this Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen, who are you going to be relying upon now? Got the likes of Kyle Bacchus, Jalen Beeks, Bryce Jarvis, John Curtis with 2 S's, Juan Murillo, all these guys posting up above a 4.30 ERA. Now for the Diamondbacks, even though they traded away Eugenio Suarez along Josh Naylor, they saw some pop in this lineup. Lourdes Gurriel has been able at about a 250 with some power with 12 home runs. Corbin Carroll's up to 22 bombs. Has not been himself since coming out the injury list, hitting a sub 230 with, I believe, 3 home runs since coming out the injury list. But Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, 390 on base. He's been able to give you about a home run every 13 to 14 at best. Pavin Smith currently being on the injury list has hurt the team, but they have found a way to be able to mix and match with this lineup. And on the other side of things, the San Diego Padres are actually a bottom 10 team in all baseball in terms of runs per game. But when you pick up a Roman Laureano along with Ryan O'Hearn, pair of guys with a double-figure amount of bombs, north of a 345 on base for both of these guys, that helps you out because the entirety of the catcher spot has been bad. Jason Hayward was the guy that they were banking on for production. He did not deliver it, but you've got Manny Machado with 20 home runs at 360 on base. Fernando Tatis Jr., 17 home runs, 365 on base. Gavin Sheets, 15 bombs, hitting at 250. Jackson Merrill not hitting for a ton of power, but he's starting to move the line a little bit more as well. So an interesting circumstance here. Like I said, if it's JP Sears against Brandon Pfaadt, it's a relatively pick-em price. Berger is about a minus 122, a minus 125 favorite for the Padres. Bullpen game is probably closer to minus 110, minus 115 for the Padres. And pretty much regardless of who starts in this game, unless if it's Berger. Berger would be an 8.5 or less to the over, 9 or higher to the under, but I mean pretty much anyone other than him. 9 or less looking at the over, 9.5 or higher, the under. 9-9, 9-10 on the betting board. The St. Louis Cardinals are on the road against the LA Dodgers. Tyler Glasnow is on the bump for the Dodgers. Sonny Gray goes for the Cardinals, and the Cardinals do find themselves as pretty good-sized underdogs here of anywhere between plus 152 to a plus 162, minus 180 to minus 190. That number on Los Angeles, 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8. Over is minus 120, the under is even on the 8.5. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. I made my total 8.6, so I'm in on the over. Sonny Gray just simply has not been good away from home this year. Frankly, Sonny Gray has not been good at all over the last few weeks, but especially on the road. As for Sonny Gray, he should be doing for a little bit of positivity on his 4.38 ERA, more of a 3.08 fielding dependent. He's getting 9.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.5 walks, and 1.1 home runs per 9 innings allowed. That's actually really solid numbers, but here's the thing. He has given up 19 runs, 17 of which have been earned runs over the course of his last 3 starts. And when this guy has been on the road, he has just been giving up the hard contact and he has been getting shelled. On the road this year for Sonny Gray, 5.84 ERA. He is giving up over 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. When he's been at home, that lowers to about 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. And Tyler Glasnow is a guy that I actually do have quite a bit of faith in to give you a good start. Recognize that his last start against the Reds was a bit less than savory. Gave up 4 runs in that start, but prior to that, he had given up a grand total of 4 earned runs in his previous 4 starts. Since coming out the injury list, if you look at the last 3 starts, he had given up 2 earned runs, 3 runs in total in those 3 starts coming off the injury list. So, do feel pretty good about him. He's been giving you about 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. The 4.5 walks per 9 innings, less than tremendous, and he did give up quite a few walks in that start against the Cincinnati Reds, but I do think that he goes out there against a Cardinals team that, since the beginning of the month of July, they're in pretty much a bottom 2 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. I do think that they're going to have a little little bit of a tough time getting it going. Ivan Herrera, though, does return to the lineup. He's hitting above a 300. He's been able to give the team 9+ home runs. Alec Burleson has been able to supply 14 bombs. He, along with Brandon Donovan, both hitting above a 280. You've had Victor Scott give you stolen bases, but he, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, these young guys just have not stepped up for the team, all hitting at 230 or lower. And for the Cardinals, this has been a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA, and even without Ryan Elsley out there, I do think that they're still going to be relatively solid. Riley O'Brien, Kyle Leahy, Matt Savanson, Jojo Romero, all guys that right now give you a sub-3.25 ERA. And for the LA Dodgers, they are dealing with bullpen woes of their own. They do pick up Rock and Roll Stewart at the trade deadline, and Alexis Diaz I thought was a shrewd pickup that is going to be able to help them out moving forward. Alex Vesia, Jack Dreyer been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA, but Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott are currently on the injured list. Both of these guys were rough to start with, so getting back Blake Trinan is actually a big giant haul for this team. And for the Dodgers, since the beginning of the month of July, they're actually a bottom 10 team in terms of runs per game. It's all really been since Max Muncy went down with an injury. Max Muncy was giving the team a 375 on base, a home run every about 18 to 19 at bats. Without him in the fold, there's been less protection for some of these guys. Shohei Ohtani's still been amazing, 38 home runs, 380 on base, but Andy Paz has seen a bit of a dip in his power, still hitting about a 275, 19 home runs. Teoscar Hernandez sitting at 250 with 16 home runs, but he really doesn't draw a lot of walks. I like what Will Smith is bringing to the table, 14 home runs, north of a 400 on base. Freddie Freeman continues to give you a 375 on base, but you've had the likes of Tommy Edman, Michael Conforto not really give you a whole heck of a lot. That said, I just don't have any faith here in Sonny Gray giving you a good start on the road. I do think that Glasnow does a good job here, and I think that Gray continues to give up runs on the road, so I did semi-total it at 8.6. I do like the over, and for the Dodgers, with the run line, I was willing to take pretty much a plus 105 or higher on them. Right now, the lone place I'm seeing that initial opener on the run line is at FanDuel. I'm seeing that at plus 126, so sign me up there and sign me up on the over. 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. The Detroit Tigers are playing host to the Minnesota Twins. Zebby Matthews should be going for the Minnesota Twins in this one up against Casey Mize of Detroit, but right now Matthews is not listed up on the betting board for Minnesota, so this is a game that is indeed off the board. But if we do indeed get Mr. Zebby Matthews going up against Casey Mize, I've got my handicap for it, as I did set the Tigers as a minus 169, very nice on the money line. Want to go up to a minus 168 there, or a plus 115 or higher. We'll be looking at that run line. We need at least plus 170 to be able to fire in on the Minnesota Twins, and with regards to a total, set mine at 8.6, so an 8.5 or less. I'm in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. If you do indeed get Zebby Matthews, he's been a high strikeout guy. You might also get Simeon Woods Richardson as well. Woods Richardson has been dealing with a little bit of injury, and I'd probably set Woods Richardson as about 10 cents better than Zebby Matthews. I'd probably be still looking at an 8.5 or less to the over, or 9 or higher to the under, mainly because Woods Richardson probably not going to go deep in this game. He has went 5 innings or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts. Has been solid in this time span. He has given up 300 runs or fewer in every one of these starts. 4.24 ERA, fielding dependent, is relatively in line there. He's been giving up about 3.7 walks per 9 innings, 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, but and you really look ever since he had a very disastrous start to the season, as he posted up in May a 6.75 ERA, but ever since the beginning of the month of June, that has lowered to a sub-3.50 ERA, so he's been able to pitch quite a bit better ever since he had that doldrum period. But that said, for the Detroit Tigers, they are going to be coming off of Sunday Night Baseball, so I might be devaluing them just a little bit more, as well as this is still a little bit of a TBD, but for the Detroit Tigers, ever since the All-Star break, they have been averaging fewer than 3.5 runs per contest. I do think that this gets back online, as Kerry Carpenter, he's come off the injured list. He's been utilized as a platoon guy since coming off the injured list, but 16 plus home runs, hitting above a 260, that's going to help out this team. You've got Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green really supplying the boom. For Green, 270 average, 26 home runs, Torkelson 23 bombs at about a 335 on base, and just plenty of guys that are moving the line. Wencio Perez, Javi Baez, Zone Dingler, Gleyber Torres. When he's been out there, Zach McKinstry, who's been dealing with injuries. You've got all these guys hitting at least a 263 for this team, and then for the flip side, you've got a Minnesota Twins team that, they have been just absolutely gutted. Like, that's the only way of being able to put it. You still do have Byron Buxton, though, and Byron Buxton has been great. 23 plus home runs, above a 340 on base, since coming off the injured list for a second time. Royce Lewis has been solid. Lewis overall for the season, hitting about a 250, but you take a look at what he's been able to do over the last 3 days. So this signifies when he came off the injured list, he has been hitting above a 300 with 3 home runs in his last about 80 or so at bats, so he's starting around found into form. You've been able to have Matt Wallner give you a bit of something recently, about a 318 on base, double-figure amount of homers, but has been struggling to move the line as you've got the likes of Brooks Lee, Trevor Larnach, even throwing their Ty France in that neighborhood about 242, 250 as well. And this is a Twins bullpen that is highly suspect right now. They're in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of their ERA, as you've got all these good relievers just gone. Now you've got likes of Cody Funderburk, Justin Topa, Cole Sands, Michael Tonkin, a whole bunch of guys are rocking north of a 3.75 ERA. And for the Detroit Tigers, since the beginning of the month of June, they've been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA as well. I mean, it has been a rough run of things for Tommy Kahnle. North of a 4.5 ERA. They're holding this up and too reliable this year. They pick up Kyle Finnegan, but I mean, even he's been posting up an ERA above a 4. You've had Will Vest along with Brian Herter, both give you a sub 3.5 ERA, and I do think that Casey Mize goes out there and gives you a pretty solid performance. Not necessarily a strikeout artist, but I mean, he's done a nice job holding the ball in the yard, giving up about 1.15 home runs per 9 innings. He's only allowing 2.5 walks per 9 as well, so I do think that he's going to continue to do a rock solid job here. And I do think that for Casey Mize, after his last few starts, he didn't necessarily go deep. He has won 4 innings or fewer in each of his last 3 starts. They extend him out here a little bit more. So if it is indeed Casey Mize going against Simeon Woods-Richardson, which it does look like it's looking like it's going to be Woods-Richardson a little bit more, I'd be setting the Tigers more around probably about a minus 155 is where I'd be settling on that money line. I would need about a plus 128 or so to be able to take a shot on that run line again. If it's Ebby Matthews, more like a minus 169 there. And then both cases, I'm going to be looking at an 8.5 or less to the over, a 9 or higher to the under. As we go to 9:13, 9:14 on the betting board, it is the Kansas City Royals. They are on the road. They're facing off against the Boston Red Sox. Bailey Falter hopes to not live up to his aim for the Royals. Brian Bayo is on the bump for Boston. Boston does find themselves as a minus 150 to a minus 165 favorite, between plus 134 to a plus 140. Then over on Kansas City, 9 is the total. Over is minus 120, and the under is even. And with the Royals, I did set them on the money line at a plus 153. Here with the Red Sox, I'm going to be in on them or some former capacity. If you're right now looking at that initial FanDuel opener on the run line, which are always unreliable, plus 132 there, I would be willing to take that. I would need at least a plus 127 to be able to fire in on the run line, as Bailey Falter has actually been relatively solid in terms of not getting blown up this far this season, as he has allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in all but 2 out of his last 16 starts. He's got for the season a 3.73 ERA, but a 4.87 fielding dependent. He does not give you any strikeouts whatsoever. 5.6 strikeouts at 3.1 walks per 9 innings. He's been allowing 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Now he goes to Fenway, where it's very much not a pitcher-friendly ballpark, to say the least. And for Brian Bayo, he's one of the best at being able to tame this ballpark. 3.19 ERA, giving up just 1 home run per 9 innings. He's a sinker ball pitcher, so he gets the ball on the ground for those double plays. Really like that about him. He's only getting about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings himself. He's probably doing for a little bit of regression as well. That said, he's backed up by a Boston Red Sox bullpen that has been one of the best in all of baseball. Aroldis Chapman has been one of the best closers in all of baseball. He's sub 175 ERA. He's still getting 13 plus strikeouts per 9 innings, but I mean, it's not just him. Garrett Whitlock, Chris Murphy, Justin Wilson, Craig Weisert. You've got a whole bunch of guys out there give you a sub 325 ERA. They have been very rock solid for this bullpen. They didn't make a lot of moves at the trade deadline. They obviously picked up Jordan Hicks a few months ago and they got Steven Matz, but I like where this team is at, and the young guys have really been able to step up. Roman Anthony is not really giving you a lot in terms of home run power, but Roman Anthony is doing a nice job giving you darn near 400 on base. Masataka Yoshida has been a little bit slow going since coming off the injury list, but got Alex Bregman firing all cylinders once again. He, Ceddanne Rafaela, both have 14 home runs apiece, and for Bregman, over a 365 on base. Trevor Story, 18 home runs after he was miserable to start the season. He has picked it up. Weiler Abreu is wilding out for 20 home runs as well, and then on the other end for the Kansas City Royals, offense is starting to pick it up. That 7 mark that they put up yesterday, though, is a little bit of a Medusa because they had 2 runs in regulation and then they blew up Sir Anthony Dominguez in the 10th inning. So I take that with a little bit more of a grain of salt, though. This offense since the beginning of the month of July has been quite a bit more respectable. You've got Salvador Perez, who's been able to give you 20 home runs this year. Pretty much half of them have come since the beginning of the month of July. Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, combined 34 home runs this season. Witt Jr. is give you 29 stolen bases, sitting at 285. Pasquantino about a 330 on base. And under the radar, Miguel Garcia has been hitting about a 300 with 20 stolen bases and 10 home runs. He's been rock solid, but these guys towards the bottom, they're just not giving you a ton. Like a Drew Waters with a 288 on base with 1 home run. You've had Nick Lofton, John Rave not be great. Jack Caglione is on the injured list. That's not a downgrade. He has not not been good at the big league level this far this season. And for the Royals, they did have to extend their bullpen a little bit more yesterday. They had to use up quite a few of their pieces. So Carlos Estevez, Lucas Ursadge, these guys have been used up quite a bit the last few days. But these two guys have been able to give you a sub 2.75 ERA in that bullpen. John Schreiber's been great. He's down to about a 3.25 ERA. You've had Taylor Clark be able to hold down the fort at times as well, but it is a bullpen that could be hit or miss, especially when you get Sammy Long out there. So it's a very interesting circumstance here with the Red Sox. I'd be willing to take a plus 129 or higher with regards to that run line. So I'm going to be looking there. And I did set my total at 9.1. Right now we're seeing a 9. I'm in on that over. 9.15, 9.16 on the card. The New York Yankees are on the road against the Walker, Texas Rangers. Patrick Corbin is on the bump for the Rangers, and Max Fried goes for the Yankees. Yankees who find themselves between minus 140 to minus 150 favorites. Plus 122 to a plus 130 is that number on Texas. 8 is the total. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And for the Yankees, I did set them at a minus 139 on the money line. If you're looking to lay a run half, again, you've got the initial FanDuel opener rocking over here, and that is a plus 118 on that Yankees run line. If we could get up to a plus 120, I'd be willing to take a shot there. So when it's all said and done, I should be backing the Yankees in some form of capacity. It's just a question of whether that's going to be money line or run line. For Patrick Corbin, he's been a whole heck of a lot better this year than he was the last few years with Washington Nationals when he was the turkey tosser because he just kept getting carved up. But that said, for Mr. Corbin, 3.78 ERA, that goes to a 3.99 fielding dependent. It's not giving up a lot of gopher balls, 1.1 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but he's still only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. For Patrick Corbin, he's been able to do a better job when he's been at home rather than on the road. 3.10 home ERA. At home, he's giving up only about 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. When he hits the road, he's giving up closer to about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings with a 4.33 ERA. And for Max Fried, he's on a rough run right now. He has given up 3+ runs in 5 out of his last 6 starts. Things have been really going sideways for him. Not the world's greatest swing and miss guy. He's not bad. He's getting 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he very much relies upon command and control, 0.7 home runs and 2.1 walks allowed per 9 innings. I think that he's better than what he's thrown in here in the last few starts, but last 5 starts, he's given up 2+ walks in 4 of his last 5, so that's a little bit of an issue for him, but I do think that he's going to bounce back here, and after we saw the Yankees bullpen get completely blowtorched out there in Miami over the weekend, I do think that we're going to see some more positive results for them. You pick up David Benner along with Camilo Doval, pair of guys that at their respective stops were putting up a sub 3.30 ERA. Devin Williams just continues to be miserable this year. There's really no hope there, but that said, you've got Luke Weaver, who since coming off the injury list just has not been great. I think that you should see some positivity there. Tim Hill has been able to give you a sub 2.75 ERA as well, and for the New York Yankees, I don't really think that Ryan McMahon along with Ahmed Rosario are going to be doing too much for this team, because if you look at Ryan McMahon, the only place he's ever been able to hit in his career is Colorado. On the road, he's actually been a really bad hitter, so that I don't think is too impactful. What is impactful is Cody Bellinger, 9 home runs in the team's last 21 games. He's hitting about 275. He has been great. And then you've got quite a few guys that are hovering in that neighborhood about 16 to 20 home runs. Jazz Chisholm, Trent Grisham, Ben Rice, Anthony Volpe, but Volpe is hitting about a 220. And then you've got Austin Wells with 15 home runs, but he's giving you a hearty 268 on base and a 209 batting average. So that's been a little bit less than amazing. And Paul Goldschmidt, since the beginning of the month of June, has given you less than a 300 on base. This guy has been about as useful as a poopy flavored lollipop. And on the flip side, you've got yourself a bunch of the Texas Rangers that all of a sudden have surged with their offense. They've been averaging about 5.5 runs per game since the beginning of the month of July. I don't know where this is coming from, but all of a sudden guys are playing up to their standards, as now you've got Corey Seager, Alvon Kyle Higashioka, Josh Smith all hitting above a 260, and Higashioka since the beginning of the month of July is hitting above a 350. I don't know where this is coming from, but there it is. I can see Corey Seager because coming off the injury list, he was rough, but now he's looking like the Corey Seager that we all know and love. You've got Jock Peterson hitting that hearty $128. That's not great, but you've got Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien, Jake Berger, guys for the year hitting about a 222, 230 between 11 and 15 home runs, but they're starting to pick it up. And then for the Texas Rangers, since the beginning of the month of June, this has been a top 5 team with regards to their bullpen ERA. We've got a lot of guys rocking sub 3.25 ERAs now. They've got Chris Martin on the injury list, and Robert Garcia is not on the injury list, but he's dealing with a little bit of a strange injury. But we've got the likes of Danny Kalum, Phil Matone, who they picked up at the deadline, Hobie Milner, Sharman Armstrong. These guys have been able to give you a sub 3.30 ERA. So interesting circumstance here with the Yankees. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 138 on that money line, or if I get a plus 120 or better, we'll be looking at that run line. So I'll be on the Yankees in some form or capacity. capacity, and did so by Tillett at 8.3. I do think that the Rangers' offense is for real, and I do think that the Yankees get to Corbin, so I'm in on the over. 917, 918 on the card. The Tampa Bay Rays are on the road against the LA Angels. You say Kikuchi. I say that he's starting for the Halos, and Adrian, don't call him Doogie Howser, is on the bump for the Rays. 8.5 is the total. Over and under both of -110. For the Angels, they are between -125 to -132 on the money line, plus 109 to plus 115. That number on the Rays, and I felt like the Rays should have been a -124 favorite. I'm going to be rocking with them on the money line for Yusei Kikuchi. He's actually been really good at home this year, a sub-250 ERA when he's been at home. If you look at him overall for the season, he has been posting up a 3.30 ERA, but that's backed up by a 4.08 fielding dependent. He's out giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, and the issue that I do have with him is the walks. He's been giving up 3.8 walks per 9 innings, and for Adrian Hauser, he's doing a really good job of not having self-inflicted wounds. He was really good with the White Sox, posting up a 2.10 ERA, and the reason why he's been able to have this career renaissance is that he's kept the ball in the yard. In 68 and 2/3 innings, he has allowed 3 home runs across 11 starts thus far this season, posting up fewer than 3 walks per 9 innings. As a Brewers fan, I remember when he was giving up too many walks, and that's not great when you're a pitcher contact guy. He only gets about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but the way they limit the hard contact is good against an LA Angels team that is currently 26th in the big leagues in terms of home on base percentage. Like, you've got a lot of guys that are able to slug the ball out of the yard. You've had Taylor Ward be tremendous this year with 25 home runs. He's only in about a 228 with a 304 on base. Logan O'Hoppe, very happy about the 18 home runs. Not so happy about the 279 on base. Joe Adell has set fire to the rain as he's been able to give you 21 home runs. He's back below 300 on base. Zach Neto, 15 home runs. He's actually getting on base. 270 batting average, 21 stolen bases. Even Mike Trout, though. I mean, he's got 19 home runs at a 362 on base, but he's only getting at 235 as well. And this LA Angels bullpen is garbage. You've had Kenley Jansen come in and has actually been able to lower his ERA to about a 3, and then Brock and Roberg down to about 3.22 ERA. Everyone else in this bullpen north of a 3.65 ERA. Carson Fulmer, Connor Brogdon, Sam Bachman, Jose Fermin. Like, you've got a lot of guys that have been really useless. Ryan Zephyrion. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, this continues to be an upper half of the big leagues team with regards to their bullpen ERA. You've got a lot of guys that are just able to come in there and hold down the fort for you. Pete Fairbanks, along with Eric Orze, even throw in there the likes of Manuel Rodriguez, Ian Seymour, Young Gun. These guys have all been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. For the Rays, their offense has been struggling a little bit since the injury to Brandon Lau. He was giving the team 19 home runs before landing on the injured list, but Yandy Diaz, 20 home runs, hitting at 280. Junior Caminero, 28 bombs, doesn't draw a lot of walks, but hitting above a 250. Then you've got Jake Magnum, who's able to move the line, hitting about a 285. They traded away Jose Calabrejo and his 34 stolen bases, but you've got Chandler Simpson hitting darn near 300 with his 32 stolen bases. You need a bit more of Christopher Morel, Taylor Walls, the entirety of the catcher spot, but I do think that for the Rays, they should be the favorite here. I do think that they get to Kikuchi, get into that bullpen, and get the job done. So I did semi-total at 8.4. Here at the 8.5, I'm going to be landing on the under. And I do like the Rays at plus money on the money line. 919, 920 on the card. The Miami Marlins play the Houston Astros. Jason Alexander, no relation to Seinfeld, is on the bump for Houston. And Sandy Alcantara goes for Miami. This is a relatively pick-em game. Both of these teams between -105 to a -110, and the totals between 8 and 8.5. On the 8, the over is -120. The under is even. On the 8.5, under is -120, and the over is even, and I set the Astros at a -131 on the money line. I'm going to be willing to lay it for Sandy Alcantara. Last 2 starts, he's given up a combined 1 run. If you go back a little bit further, though, in his last 6 starts, 4+ runs allowed in 4 out of his last 6. He's still posting up for the season a nice hearty 6.36 ERA. He's been actually doing for some positivity, 446 fielding dependent, 3.5 walks per 9 innings. He's given up a little bit over a home run per 9. He's not as bad as that 6.36 ERA. This is still not the Sandy Alcantara that we all know and love. And for Jason Alexander, he was horrible when he was with the Athletics earlier this season. He posted up an ERA of an 18 in his appearances with them. Since coming on over to the Astros, though, he's been quite a bit better. Not saying that he's amazing, but 4.12 ERA, 4.42 fielding dependent. Not a strikeout guy. He's only getting 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but it's kept the ball in the yard. 2 home runs allowed in 19 and 2/3 innings. Very passable. And for the Astros, this has been one of the best bullpens out there in all of baseball. You've got the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Steven Okert, Bennett Sosa, Josh Hader, all these guys. They're able to give you a sub-325 ERA. Right now, they are number 3 in all baseball with a 3.35 team of bullpen ERA. For the Astros, it really has been hit or miss with regards to the lineup, but now you get Carlos Correa back, and I think that he's going to be able to supply the team with some good contact. He has not been hitting for power at all this year, but he's hitting above 260. That helps you out, especially when you're dealing with an injury to Jeremy Pena. He's Isaac Paredes lands on the injured list as well, so that means that you're looking to a lot of power out of Jose Altuve, Yanier Diaz, and Christian Walker. These three guys, between 15 and 18 home runs. Altuve hitting for great average, hitting about a 280. Diaz and Walker both between a 282 to a 301 on base. Need to move the line a little bit more, but Victor Caratini's up to 10 bombs. He's hitting about a 270. Cam Smith has been regressing a little bit, but still hitting a little bit above a 250. You've got a guy, Jake Myers, who's been about a 300 as well, so I do think that this team should be able to get to Sandy Alcantara. Now, what I will say for this Miami Marlins bullpen is that they have actually been really, really superb. If you look since the beginning of the month of June, you've had these guys like Lake Bakar, Tyler Phillips, Cade Gibson, throw in there Anthony Bender. All these guys give you a sub 3.25 ERA. For the Miami Marlins since the beginning of the month of June, 3.29 ERA. That's actually number 9 in all of baseball. Ronnie Enriquez has been solid for them as well. And for the Miami Marlins, obviously just a complete outburst on Friday against the New York Yankees. They actually entered in that series, dead last in the National League in terms of runs per game at home, just because you don't have a ton of power. Augustin Ramirez is up to 16 home runs, hitting in the neighborhood about a 245, and then Kyle Stowers is amazing. 25 home runs, over a 370 on base. Outside of that, it's a little bit suspect, though. They trade away Ansu Sanchez. You've got Otto Lopez giving you 11 home runs, hitting about a 250, but I mean, this team does a good job of being able to make contact. You've got Liam Hicks giving you about a 350 on base. You've had Xavier Edwards be able to hit about a 295. No home runs whatsoever out of him. He's got 1 overall this season, but I mean, these guys are finding a way to be able to move the line there, so it's an interesting circumstance, but I do think that for the Astros, they should be a nice size favorite here. I think both starting pitchers gives up some runs, so I told it at 8.7. I like the over and the Astros up to a minus 130 on the money line. 921, 922 on the betting board. It is the Orioles, and they are going to be on the road facing off against the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, we do know that it's going to be Mr. Cade Povich going for the Orioles, thanks to our good man Chris Cichon for straightening me out there. Meanwhile, it's old to be determined who's going to be on the bump for the Philadelphia Phillies, which is why this game is presently off the board. Now, if you look at the early projections for this one, it looks like it's going to be Aces Luzardo. And if you do get Luzardo against Cade Povich, I said the Phillies at a minus 223 on the money line. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 112 with that run line. Plus 224 or higher would be in on the Orioles and made a total of an 8.8. So an 8.5 or less, I'll be in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. Phillies are going to be coming off of Sunday Night Baseball, but they don't have to travel for this. So that helps out things a little bit. And for this Philadelphia Phillies team, they've been mashing more than 5 runs per contest this year. As a matter of fact, I'm seeing a FanDuel opener of a plus 106 on the run line, minus 198 on that Phillies money line, and then total of 9 over is even, and the under is minus 120. I'd be taking that under, and I'd be taking that Phillies run line for Luzardo. He's due in for so much positivity. For Aces Luzardo, he looked like a Cy Young candidate for the first 2 months of the season, and now he's the captain of the outhouse. He's got a 4.31 ERA, but a 2.98 fielding dependent. You just don't see splits like this time of year, where a guy has a full 1.4 difference between his fielding dependent and his ERA. 0.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings. The 3.5 walks per 9 innings is a little bit less than savory, but he's still getting 10.5 punch outs per 9 innings. I think that he's going to be able to go out there and perform quite well against a Baltimore Orioles team that just has not been hitting when they've been away from home. And now you don't have Ramon Laureano, and now you don't have as well Ryan O'Hearn. These guys that were able to do such a great job of moving the line, getting on base for this team. As you take a look at the Baltimore Orioles run output on the road this far this season, they are right there at the bottom of the American League at 3.6 runs per contest. You still have Gunnar Henderson give you 15 plus home runs, hitting for a 270, and now you're getting back Adley Rutschman, but Adley Rutschman hasn't necessarily been too amazing thus far this season. I like Jordan Westberg. He's hitting at 270. He's been able to give you a home run every about 18 to 19 at-bats, and I mean, all of a sudden, you've been able to get a little bit of production out of their young gun outfielder in Jeremiah Jackson, so that's very nice, but Kobe Mayo's been a flop. Dylan Carlson's been a flop. Colton Cowser is hitting at 220, so you just don't have a lot there. And for this Baltimore Orioles team, this bullpen is in tatters. Like, man, this is not good. Cade Stout, Yanier Cano, Grant Wolfram, all these guys are giving you above a 4 ERA. They might be looking at Elvin Rodriguez as a long guy, and he's got a nice hearty 8.68 ERA. Corbin Martin has actually been a nice find for them, but I mean, that's about all the positive that I have there. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, this is still a little bit of a suspect bullpen, but you pick up Yohan Duran, who's a really good closer, Orion Kerkering, Tanner Banks, Matt Strom. These guys will be able to give you a sub 3.65 ERA. And for this lineup, they're averaging about 5.1 runs per game at home. Kyle Schwarber has really been just carrying the mail for the team all season long. 375 on base, 37 home runs, and then Bryce Harper, 16 bombs, 375 on base. You've had Nick Castellanos be able to hit for 15 home runs. He's up to about a 270 with regards to his average, even though you don't get a whole heck of a lot of power out of JT Realmuto and Alec Bohm, both between 7 and 8 home runs, both are above a 268 apiece as well. So I do think that for the Philadelphia Phillies, they should be able to absolutely lambaste this Orioles team, especially with the way that Cade Povich just has not been able to find it at the big league level. For Mr. Povich, 5.15 ERA, they had to send him down to the minor league level. He dealt with injury and just lack of performance, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but giving up 1.4 bombs per 9 innings. He's got a 4.12 fielding dependence, so should see a little bit of positivity on that. ERA is currently a 5.15, but also for Mr. Povich, he's actually been much better on the road rather than at home. 3.10 road ERA, giving up 1 home run in 29 innings and 9 bombs given up in 35 2/3 innings at home. I do think that irons out a little bit more. So circumstance where, with regards to this one, I did set the Philadelphia Phillies to where I'd be willing to lay up to a -112 on that run line. So looking there, and a 9 or higher, I'm in on the under. 9.23, 9.24 on the betting board. The Cleveland Guardians are on the road against the New York Mets. Sean Manaea is on the bump for the Mets, and Slade Cichon is on the bump for Cleveland. Cleveland is a underdog of anywhere between +152 to +162. Meanwhile, -180 to -190 is that number on the Mets. 8 is the total. Over is -115, and the under is -105. And for the Guardians, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them. Needed at least a +155 to be able to do so. For Slade Cichon, he's actually been very rock solid this far this season for this bunch, as for Cichon, he's on some sort of strikeout artist here, 7.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he has been allowing 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. He's had a little bit of an issue giving up the deep balls recently, 6 home runs allowed in his last 5 starts, but do like the overall stuff that he's able to possess. He's only giving up 2.5 walks per 9 innings, and for Manaea, he's come back off the injured list and has actually looked really good. 4 appearances, 11.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. It is a little bit of a small sample size, and they've only had him go 17 1/3 innings total in these 4 appearances, and that's a little bit of an issue with a Mets bullpen that, while they did pick up Ryan Helsley to be able to fortify things since the beginning of the month of June, they have been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of that bullpen ERA, as they did have to trade away Jose Buto, who's actually one of their better long guys. You pick up Ryan Helsley, which does help things out quite a bit, but Gregory Soto isn't really too much of a help in my opinion. You've been able to have Rico Garcia actually be pretty solid in this bullpen when he's been out there. He's been able to give you a sub-250 ERA. Reed Garrett has been giving you a sub-3 ERA. Obviously, Edwin Diaz, he sometimes makes things adventurous, but he's been able to get the job done time and time again. But now you've got Max Kranick, who's still on the injured list, a relatively good long guy. Oscar Bazobin has been rocking north of a 3.80 ERA. It's been touch and go when it comes to some of these other long guys like a Brandon Waddell and company. And for the Mets, this is a very top-heavy lineup. You've got a quartet of guys with at least 19 home runs. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto. Soto 380 on base, leading the way with 25 bombs. For Alonso, 350 on base. Francisco Lindor has not been the same since he suffered that lower body injury earlier in the season, but I mean, it's the bottom of the fold that's been laying the team down right now. Mark Vientos has been a bit better recently, but 285 on base thus far this season with 7 home runs. Jeff McNeil has been solid, 350 on base, and Brett Baty's up to 11 home runs, but he's giving you a 290 on base. The entirety of the catcher spot has been awful for this team, and Tyrone Taylor's hitting at the Mendoza line of 200. Now for the Cleveland Guardians, the bottom of this lineup has been absolutely putrid. You've got Jose Ramirez giving you 23 home runs, he's hitting at 300. Stephen Kwan is hitting at 280, and all of a sudden Kyle Manzardo, 18 home runs, 311 on base. There you go, but then you got just so many guys are hitting at 223 or lower. Nolan Jones, Brian Rocchio, David Fry, Bo Naylor, Jonathan Rodriguez, Austin Hedges. When he's been out there, John Kensey Noel. Like, you just go down the list. It is rough for this team, to say the least. And for the Guardians, it's been hit or miss with regards to the bullpen because Emmanuel Clase is right now on the sidelines. That's not great, to say the least. Now, Nick Enright, Eric Zabrowski, both of these guys, a sub-225 ERA. Cade Smith has been able to give you some presentable performances with about a 3 ERA, but I mean, obviously, when you get to Matt Festa, north of a 4.5 ERA, that's not been great. Tim Aaron has dealt with injuries, and even when he's been out there, he's been a little bit less than amazing as well. So it is an interesting circumstance, but with Manaea not necessarily going deep in these games, and the Mets having some question marks of their own, and I do actually believe in Cichon here, I feel like this number has went a little bit too far. Did set by total 7.7. I like the under, and I do like the Cleveland Guardians on the money line, and wrap things up with 925, 926 on the card. It is the Toronto Blue Jays heading to the road to face off against the Colorado Rockies. Tanner Gordon is on the bump for the Rockies, and Eric Lauer is on the bump for the Toronto Blue Jays. Right now, the initial opener has the Blue Jays at -$2 on the money line, plus 168 for the Rockies. 11.5 is the total, over and under both at -110. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Blue Jays, you're going to be find that at a -137, and I'd be willing to lay that Blue Jays run line I'd be willing to go up to about a minus 150 with regards to this run line of the Blue Jays. I officially set it at a minus 152 as Eric Lauer has just been absolutely rocking and rolling this season. His strikeouts per 9 rate is now above a 9 once again, and he has been just really good in terms of being able to keep things out in front of him, not allowing a lot of walks, not allowing a lot of hard contact, and he does have to go to Coors Field where obviously things do sometimes go into the abyss a little bit. We saw some funky things happen over the weekend against Pittsburgh Pirates, but I do think that he's going to be up for the challenge as thus far this season, 2.1 walks and 1 home run allowed per 9 innings. And for Tanner Gordon, he had a few nice starts to begin the season, but I knew that was going to be a flash in the pan, and in his last start, he just got completely smoked as he gave up in that start 7 runs, 6 of which were earned in 3 innings on the road against the Cleveland Guardians. That's not great to say the least. If you take a look at his career numbers, this is 2 seasons, 13 total starts. He has a career 7.01 ERA with 1.9 home runs and 2.1 walks per 9 innings. Not very inspiring right there, and he's backed up by a bullpen that, they got rid of Jake Bird. You've got Victor Vodnik, who's been able to give you a sub-4 ERA. Juan Mejia from time to time hasn't been too terrible for them, but likes of Seth Alverson, Anel Shavili, guys like this, rocking north of a 4.5 ERA, that's less than tremendous. They even traded away Tyler Kinley. That's not a downgrade for this team, but for the Colorado Rockies, it's not even like you've got a lot of guys that are mashing at home. Hunter Goodman has 20 home runs this year, but he's actually got more home runs when he has been on the road rather than when he has been at home. Now, Jordan Beck has been rock solid, hitting above a 300 at home along with Brenton Doyle, so these guys have stepped up. Mickey Moniak, 322 average at Coors Field, 10 home runs. You like to be able to see that, but you still have some pretty epic failures with this team. Kyle Farmer at home has been hitting right around about the Mendoza line of a 200. Thairo Estrada is not hitting for a lot of average or power when he's at home. He's been hitting about a 243. You've had, in a very limited sample size, Ezekiel Tofar actually hit a 400 at home. It's like 17 games, but he'll take that. But obviously, this has been a rough team that's only averaging about 4.4 to 4.5 runs per game at home. You'd expect that number to be much, much higher. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, they do have some pretty demonstrative home and road splits of their own. As for the Blue Jays, they're averaging in the neighborhood about 5.2 to 5.3 runs per game when they're at home, just a hair above 4 runs per game when they're away from home. And George Springer, being a little bit banged up, has been hurting this team as he's giving you 18 home runs, above a 360 on base. But Vlad Jr., 395 on base, 16 home runs. Edison Barger's up to 16 bombs. You've had Bo Bichette be able to hit darn near 300. He's up to 13 home runs as well. And then you've got a guy in Alejandro Kirk who's been dealing with a little bit of injury recently. He's back in the fold for the team. He's hitting at 300. Some of these young gun guys have been able to mix and match, and they've been able to step up. Miles Straw's been able to about a 255, so you do like to be able to see that. And for this Blue Jays bullpen, they have been a top 10 mark in the big leagues in terms of ERA. You won't be getting Sir Anthony Dominguez in this game because he completely blew it in the 10th inning, but I think these guys like Braden Fisher, Brandon Little, Uriel Rodriguez, they have been really good in this bullpen thus far this season, all posting up a sub-275 ERA. It's been an adventure when Jeff Hoffman has been in there with over a 4.55 ERA, and Chad Green has been having his issues as well, but I do think that the Blue Jays do a nice job holding down this Rockies team. I did set my total 11.2, so at the 11.5, I like the under, and I'm willing to lay up to a minus 152 with this Blue Jays run line, and that'll wrap things up for the Monday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Chris Cichon, who does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM. The name does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm with you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
When my husband came home from his military deployment, readjusting was hard for all of us. Thankfully, I found Talkspace.
Talkspace provides professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatric providers online. Military members, veterans, and their dependents ages 13 and older can get fast access to providers, all from the privacy of their computers or smartphones.
I just answered a few questions online, and Talkspace matched me with a therapist. We meet when it's convenient for me, and I can message her anytime. It was so easy to set up, and they accept TRICARE. Therapy was going so well, my husband and I started seeing a couples therapist through Talkspace too.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, including TRICARE. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com/military. Go to Talkspace.com/military to get started today. That's Talkspace.com/military.